Good evening.
Sometimes over.
I'd like to call the Tuesday, May 8th, 2018 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. If everyone could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on the agenda tonight, public comment period. In the back, Mr. Mikas.
Tom Mikas, 73 Marmion Way.
Mikas.
First of all, apologize for not being here at the meeting when you interviewed Candace Waldron for the Rights of Way Committee.
Oh, our last meeting. I actually wasn't here either, but thank you.
As chair, just want to let you know we fully support and look forward to her being appointed.
Great.
The other comment I want to make is nothing you can do about immediately, but this selectmen's election brings to mind the issue of the way our election works when there are many, many candidates for a limited number of seats. So with 7 candidates for 2 seats, it's possible for 2 selectmen to be winning with only 15% of the vote each. That's theoretically possible. The solution to this is ranked choice voting. This is something that's been supported by the League of Women Voters. It's proposed in the Mass Legislature. It didn't get out of committee this year, but perhaps next year it will, next session. It is possible for a town to invoke that without the legislature acting. In fact, Hadley is trying to do that this week by means of an article in their on their warrant. So I don't know the results from Hadley, but just plant that seed, and whether some committee or select board wants to put it forward or whether it comes as a citizen petition, I think it's a good thing to do.
Okay, great, thank you. Toby?
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. Can you hear?
Yes.
2 topics, 3 if you'll stand for it. First, you seem to have decided on 6 o'clock meetings. Was that an official decision, or is that ongoing, or
We
what?
said we're going to try it for a while.
I see. I think it's a mistake. I can get here, so you're not rid of me if you'd had any hopes. But people who commute, would not be able to make it, and perhaps others who work 9 to 5. So I think it's I could see your wish to get out when it's still light in warm weather, but I think it a mistake in terms of the voters, the citizens. The other subject, at your meeting immediately after the town meeting, the Tuesday after, I asked in public comment period 2 questions about the affordable housing. When your board intends to activate the Affordable Housing Trust that we authorized at the 2017 annual town meeting. And the other question was whether the $2,500 was in the community development budget for the housing needs assessment. And I really feel that I should have been given an answer to the second question, which is a matter of fact, on the spot. But do you have answers to those questions?
I think the answer to the housing trust is soon, and I can't give an exact date. And Mitch, do you have an answer on the second one? If you don't, we could probably get an answer. We could probably get it by the next meeting. Yes. Great.
Well, to go on that subject, I had a whole list of the various line items for the Community Development Department from your office, from Mitch Vieira, a month and a half before the town meeting. And later that was consolidated by the Finance Committee into either 4 or 5 items. That was all that was in the booklet at the town meeting. And whether or not one's in favor of those items, I think that's most unfortunate. That's unlike other town department budgets in that the various subjects for the line items are in no way related other than the fact that they're town of Rockport. So that whereas the Finance Committee talks about informing the voters and wishing people to be as well informed as possible on what they're voting on, in that case, it's not the way it works. You're basically voting on something that could be anything. And it would be worth a dozen lines if that's required in the next presentation for a town meeting so that people would know.
Okay,
Can
thanks.
you listen to anything further, or have you had it for now?
I think that's good for tonight, thanks. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, moving on. Oh, there it is. I lost my agenda. Goodness, wow. The time is now past 6:10, so we can hold our public alcohol license hearing for Whistle Stop Market, LLC. Is there hold on one second. Mitch, do you have a copy of the ad that was in the paper? Oh, is it in our
It's in the
packet?
packet,
Okay.
wanna
Would
read
someone
that
like to
first?
make the motion?
I will.
Great, if you make the motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Selectmen open a public
Oh, there it
hearing
is.
on the application of Whistle Stop Market, LLC for an annual off-premises license to sell wine and malt beverages at a grocery store.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote? No.
Yes.
On opening the hearing? Sure. Yeah. Selectman Donnelly? Selectman Sheedy? Selectman Wilkinson? Aye. Selectman Campbell?
Aye.
Selectman Murphy?
Aye.
Okay, and I'd like to just read the notice that was in the newspaper. Town of Rockport Board of Selectmen, public hearing, Tuesday, May 8th, 2018, 6:10 PM, Conference Room A, Town Office Building, 34 Broadway, to discuss the application for Whistle Stop Market, LLC, 27 Whistle Stop Mall, for an annual year-round license to sell wine and malt beverages in a grocery store. Signed, Board of Selectmen, Sarah J. Wilkinson, Chairperson, in the Gloucester Times, 4/26/18.
Great.
Good evening. Hi, I know Jay is here. Good evening. Do you want to join us at the table? And do you want Jack to join you, or? Okay.
Can I just say that I don't know how this is going to go. That I know we're just starting with the process, but this is great news for this town. I mean, this is one of the things that I've heard over since. When did IGA close? 2010?
Too long ago,
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, this is exciting that something like this may happen. So,
It is. Good evening.
Hello.
Nice to see you. So do you want to talk a little bit? I know you have a poster.
I have a poster here.
Okay, and then we received the packet of
Yep.
information.
Show you the poster, or I can show it to the
Why don't
crowd?
you show it to the crowd, because we have it. You can, maybe you could just put it on a chair. Maybe turn that chair next to, yeah, perfect.
maybe opening what he wants to do before he does specifics.
Yeah,
I have somebody really qualified to hold
perfect.
this.
Oh, you don't have to stand there, Jack. Okay, and then do you want to just talk a little bit about your plan? Maybe take us through your,
Yes.
great.
Well, as you mentioned, we're trying to bring a grocery store back to Rockport. It's been a
Jay, I'm
long
sorry, if you
time.
could just be sure that you're closer to the mic.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
I'm Jay Smith, 45 Mount Pleasant Street. And as was just mentioned, we're trying to bring a grocery store back to Rockport. It's been a long time since we've had one. Had a lot of people have asked me about it. I know it's important to people for the convenience of having that kind of business in town and being able to go locally to a spot where you can get the things that you want, the things you need, and with local people to help you, friendly service, and so we're trying to make that work. One of our focuses will be on local produce. We've been talking to, so far, one local farm, and we've agreed in principle that we're going to sell their vegetables and their meat this year. We also are still looking at more contacts for other farms that we can deal with. Obviously, local produce is not going to be available all year, so there will be a time when it gets switched off, and it's all market produce, as it would be for things like the citrus and bananas and things that don't grow around here. We're trying to make a nice grocery store for the community, and part of what people have been looking for is they're looking for a local beer and wine outlet too. We think we can do it successfully, again, with the focus on small, focus on local when possible, and on customer service and convenience for the people that are our neighbors. In the packet, you have the cover letters there, and the next page is a proposed plan for our store, which we would start out by bringing in the produce for the summer growing season. Follow it up on its tail by more refrigeration to handle the dairy products and meats, some freezer cases as well. And baked goods would come in fairly soon. We'd have some staples, canned goods, that kind of thing. And depending on how it goes, we'd really like to add a deli, a full-service deli with prepared foods, salads, sandwiches, that kind of thing. But that would be once there was a little more confidence in that people are going to support this. Because it is a small town, it's a wonderful town, but it can be a fickle town too. And we want to make sure that we're doing what the people really want and that they will patronize it. And I'm optimistic for that. But again, it's a big investment, and I want to be measured in how I do it, to do it right and to be cautious at the same time.
Sarah, can I jump in, or are we gonna, do you wanna wait to the end of,
Yeah, let's like
Yeah,
to
that's fine, yeah.
finish and then.
I just I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
For going to the next page, two-sided page, these are examples of the kind of atmosphere that we'd like to create. And it would be,
It's nice.
it would not be market basket. It would be fun and funky and colorful and have a small feel to it, not the mega feel of the big grocery stores. Again, this shows where we'd like to go with some prepared foods, with the nice salads and the different things. So those are some ideas of what we'd like to do. The next is a letter to the community, which we posted in early April, asking for feedback from our neighbors, our customers. And we've published a survey to that end to find out what the customers are looking for. So far, there's been about 360 or 70 people to take the survey, and it is, the paper versions are very similar to the online version, but the online version is a little more in-depth. But we ask about what they like about the current Cracker Jack store. And that's been one thing that has just knocked me over. The people have come out in such strong support of Cracker Jacks.
Yeah.
Based on the books,
Yeah.
I thought people had given up on Cracker Jacks.
Yeah.
But they really love it, and so it's that's part of the project, is figuring out how to rejuvenate things over there for those product lines too. It'll be a good project. We ask people what they like about Cracker Jacks, what they want, what they buy at Cracker Jacks, what's important to them, and then we talked about what the grocery store should carry. And the current, I looked at it earlier today, and breads and baked good and produce, vegetables, and fruits are the two tops. Dairy products is right after that. Let me see. Meat and poultry are right after that, and beer and wine is there, but it's not one of the top requests. But it's certainly an important category according to our survey. We asked how often people shop at Cracker Jacks, how far it takes, how long it takes to get there, how do they get there? Is it walking distance? Is it driving? And then we've gone a little further to ask them for information and feedback. And so many of the comments are really positive and encouraging. It's really great. I sat down earlier today and I read the comments, and it was such a nice feeling that people seem to be responding to this and appreciating what the idea is to do. We do have a couple of people that aren't happy, but I just try to focus on doing the best I can.
So where will the product from Cracker Jacks go? Will you just bring it over to the hardware store?
The things like the household appliances like toasters and coffee makers and such are gonna move over to the hardware store.
Okay.
We have a significant remodeling project there, scheduled for July, and that will end up giving us about 15% more shelf space in the store by relaying out the way we have the aisles and the length of the aisles and how they're set. And we're gonna add on about 15% more shelves in there, so we'll have a lot more space. Some of the things like, for instance, the sewing department. People really have loyalty to the sewing department, but unfortunately, it's only about 20 people that have loyalty to it. But
Those 20 people, they're pretty passionate.
But, no, that being said, we don't have to have, everything doesn't have to be the most popular, but it's just gotta be reasonable.
Yeah.
So we may cut down from 8 different kinds of sewing scissors and 4 different kinds of elastic sew-in, whatever it is. We may cut it down to 1 or 2 of those items and just not have such a comprehensive department there. Have a smaller one that'll take care of most people, and try to do it that way. So there will be some lines discontinued at Cracker Jacks, things that just are not pulling their weight at all. And
You'll hear about it.
Another example of paring down, we now stock, in bedding, we have twin, king, full, and queen sets and flat sheets and fitted sheets. And so, and don't forget pillowcases of different sizes too. But maybe we don't have to have all those varieties. Maybe we'll just have the sets. Maybe we'll just have the individuals. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go along and see what makes sense for us to do. So it'll be a creation, so to speak. It'll be an ongoing, what do we do with this? What do we do with that? How do we deal with it? And in the end, we want to make things good for our customers. That's what the whole business is about, is taking care of our customers in a way that they will be happy and well-served and want to come back and shop with us again.
Before we open it up to public comment, I know that there were some questions surrounding, like, in a perfect world, right? The grocery store would already be up and running and would be like fantastically busy, and you would walk in here and apply for the license, and we would happily vote and give it to you, and it would just supplement the store. But unfortunately, and the reason why we're here is there isn't a grocery store yet. So you have to build out the Cracker Jack space to be a grocery store, which added some complexities to the license. So Jay and Mitch and I sat down earlier, and I know Mitch has been working with town council for a few days on this. Mitch, do you want to go over kind of what the plan that we thought made the most sense to at least bring to the board as a draft, and then of course the board can make, and then it makes sense, I think, then to open it up to questions and public comment. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Just so Mitch can explain where we are, so we don't have to kind of,
Now, this is for the license, the beer and wine license, possibly
Yes.
going to.
which is what he's applying
Yeah.
for tonight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Certainly, Madam Chair. So the board has its standard options of approve or deny, but there is as you've indicated, an alternative to that. There's a grant but not issue option, where the board would be able to grant the license but not issue until excuse me, the business is in receipt of all of its required licenses and permits, and that it has fulfilled all conditions of Chapter 308 of the Acts of 2012 by a certain date or sooner, as determined by an inspection and attestation of compliance by the Inspector of Buildings. And if the licensee is not in compliance with the special act and receipt of all the required licenses and permits by a date, the licensee would be subject to a license revocation hearing by the board.
Right, because basically, the way that the special act is written up is we're supposed to give the license to a grocery store. We don't have a grocery store yet, but Jay also doesn't want to make an investment in the property and employees and inventory without knowing that, without thinking that he's getting the license, which makes sense as well. So that's why I think this plan that we came up with might work. We went back and forth on a timeline because Jay had kind of written into his plan, having phase 1 completed by the end of 2018. And then I suggested, so that would be about 8 months that's about 8 months from now, the end of 2018. I suggested maybe, on or before 6 months from now, which would be November, whatever, 8th. So basically, on or
Election day.
before, is it? On or before November 8th, all
Oh,
of
I
phase
remember.
1 would have to be completed. So basically, on or before November 8th, we have to have a functioning grocery store. The building inspector would go and inspect it, and then we would issue the license. But in between now and then, the license would be granted to them, but not issued. Does that make sense?
If I may.
Yeah, please.
That's one of the things that I'm concerned about, and it's tough, Jay, because you have a new venture that everybody wants in town that I hope is gonna be wildly successful for you, and I think it's sorely needed in town. But my concern comes with the scope of what is here and what would be presented at the time. What I wouldn't wanna see happen is things just being put in place like, there's a couple of apples here and a couple of eggs there to satisfy the requirements of what the legal definition of a grocery store is. Because I think you know this anyway, that doesn't set it up for success. It's a mechanism to get the license. And I don't think you're looking at it that way, I really don't. I just think that as we talk about the implementation of this, there are other things that come to bear on this, such as the location. And as you know, that license lives at that location. And the only way to move that license is by special legislation. So if the business is as wildly successful as I hope it is, and you want to move to the old IGA space, there are a lot of hurdles to jump over to get to that point. And I'm sure you're aware of these, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, what would the plan be if you came up and things went great? What do you do? How do you move to IGA fluidly and make it an easy transition?
In speaking of my attorney, he says that he hasn't done it himself, but he's had colleagues that have done this kind of thing where they persuade maybe Bruce Tarr and Margaret Ferrante to file the legislation, and it goes through, and it's done on a regular basis. And the state wants to make sure that all the, the state wants to make sure that things go the way they want them to go, but they wouldn't necessarily be they wouldn't have any reason to not make a sensible move to help a small business grow into a different space.
And I agree with that, and I hope that's not the case. It's just that we're dealing with the law the way it's written now, and I just want to make sure that we conform to it now, because we don't, right now, we don't have any flexibility. I could see how we could have some through legislation, but that's a bit of a cumbersome process, so. I have other things, but I'll let others jump in here. and we can
Madam
go
Chair,
from
if
there.
I may.
Go ahead, please.
Right now, we're just dealing with the Cracker Jacks location tonight, so in the future, what may happen, we can deal with it then. And I don't see any requirement under the legislation about how many eggs you have to have or any of that. So I think the intent is that you have full-service grocery store.
Right.
And also my feeling is that we passed this legislation 6 years ago, and no one's come forward for the license. So to give you the 6 months to get it up and running and know that you have the commitment for the license is fine by me.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Sure. Yeah, I think that, it sounds like a reasonable accommodation on our part to try to work with you. Obviously, we'd like to see it happen as soon as possible, but we also understand that you have to be sure that this investment is going to work for you. So I think we want to work with you. Speaking for myself, I'd like to work with you. One thought or question that I had for you is whether you've reached out to the Rockport Exchange folks about the farmers market vendors as a possible source for local everything.
And I haven't yet. I have worked at various times closely with Sarah and
Yeah.
the gang at the exchange, and it's on my list.
Okay,
to,
all right,
because
great.
They,
That's a great
do
idea.
they have some
Yeah.
good sources.
Yeah,
have
they
a
do.
nice-
Yeah.
A nice event they put together there,
Right.
and they have some good sources. So
Yeah, and some excellent
thank you for
products.
reminding me
Right.
of that.
Yeah.
Right, including local wine.
Yeah. Is everyone all right if I open it to public
I just have,
questions? Sure.
if I may, and I agree with my colleagues on this, Jay. I think this is great. No one has come forward for this license. I think this is a win-win. Gets you 6 months. I think it's going to be wildly successful. I really do. I think it's going to be similar to the restaurants downtown in Rockport who are doing very, very well. I think people are going to really enjoy your store. I think especially the folks that live over in Millbrook Park can walk right over.
Right.
Elderly people. So I think it's great. Are you going to have to close Cracker Jack's down to gut it, or are you going to just?
I don't think so. For phase one,
Yeah.
there's only a little bit of building,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of plumbing. We in our various meetings we came up that the building inspector wanted to see us have a mop sink, a slop sink, that we don't have currently, and so there's a little bit of construction, not a lot though.
Yeah.
So that what we'll very likely do is just do it on the fly, and we'll tarp off an area of the building if it's going to be dusty, and just do it in place.
And when do you anticipate starting phase 2?
It will be what the support is. And if people are coming out in droves and saying, "Where's your deli? We really want this,"
Yeah.
and they're supporting the rest of the business, then it says, "Oh, better get my stuff together and get on this."
Yeah.
If it's not so robust support, then they may say something different.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know.
Yeah. And then the license would obviously go back out of the holding area. Something else I was going to ask regarding. So when do you anticipate opening the doors?
The store is open now, and it will
Right.
continue to be open.
Yeah.
But what we're working on a plan to move some of the merchandise over to from Cracker Jacks to Ace.
Yeah.
And we'll do some of that. We're ready to do some of that now. Some of it will wait till July, till we have our building project, our remodeling project at
Yeah.
Ace
Yeah.
done. And so it'll be an ongoing evolution of
Mm-hmm.
a little bit at a time and get it done.
Good.
But hopefully having the produce will start people in the habit of thinking about us
Mhm.
and making us a regular stop for them in their travels.
So, Jay, at the onset, I'm looking at the plan, there's no, because I see it in phase 2, but you have no ovens or anything like that. So anything that's made baked goods, that would be brought in. It's
Right.
not, it's nothing you're gonna make on site right now.
Right. And some people that, currently at the hardware store, we sell bread. And we sell Virgilio's bread, and
Yeah, I noticed
I
that.
bought
That's
bread.
new,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I bought bread there today, actually. Bob Virgilio's, and it
And-
must
Is
have
that
just been
practice?
delivered.
Practice.
Must have just gotten there. I needed an after-school snack for my
Try to
kids.
see if you can
I
make
don't
some
know.
dough.
I've been looking at this
But
idea
I'm-
for a long time. I've thought of it over the years, but I really haven't gotten to do it. And so I've been touring grocery stores, and I'll go by like a farm stand store, and I'll have to check that out. And so I've been doing that, and one of the things that I just got to thinking is, what about, we have Grant Family Farm, Christopher Grant's mother works at the Gloucester store, and he sells organically raised, but not officially organic, free-range eggs. And he does lots of farmers markets, he puts them in some different grocery stores. And I said, well, let's bring some in here to the hardware store and see what people think. And the same with Virgilio's bread. I said, let's bring it in. I'm very pleased at the amount of bread we sell there. It's a
Where are the
respectable amount.
eggs?
Right at the front
Right
counter.
up front.
Oh, I didn't see them. Okay.
There's a little
And they're-
fridge.
Yeah, the popcorn.
Oh.
They're,
I just see the popcorn.
no, by the popcorn. They are $6.50 a dozen, so they're not 99 cents a dozen for these eggs.
Mm.
And part of the whole thing that I need to remember is that not everybody's going to want that $6.50 eggs. We've got to have some other different kinds of eggs. So it'll be a mixture of different products that'll appeal to different people, but hopefully we'll get the right mix.
Yeah. Jay, quick question. What year did Cracker Jacks open? Do you know offhand?
Cracker Jacks began when the hardware store wanted to grow a little bit. It was located at 27 West Stop Mall, L.E. Smith Hardware.
Yeah.
And when it wanted to grow a little bit, we had the space over at Isinglass Place, and we had some empty space. And so we said, well, let's take our housewares, our coffee makers, those
Yeah.
household appliances, and some of the other soft goods that we have, and moved them into a new store there, which was called Rockport V&S Variety.
Oh, right,
Because
right.
our hardware store it was like a general store for the town. We had dishes and dishes and glasses and silverware
Right.
and, I mean, all these things.
Yeah.
And so times were changing, we wanted to focus more on hardware there. And so we cleared the space out into the V&S Variety. When we had the lumberyard fire in 1997, the solution we came up with was to merge the hardware and lumber stores together at the new facility where we are now. And so it left Cracker Jack's store vacant, that 27 Whistle Stop Mall vacant. We said, well, let's take Cracker Jack's, take V&S Variety and move it over to the Cracker Jack's current space. So we did, and renamed it at that point. We had a contest, and
Yeah,
So
'cause-
ninety-
renamed it
97?
Cracker Jack's.
Around
99, I want to say.
Because I remember being in the hardware store and going to look, I think I was with my parents, going to look for something that we always found in the hardware store and being told, oh, it's moved over to the new Cracker Jacks. And, we were like, oh my God, there's no way that's going to last. Because, change in Rockport. And, and here we are now. I go to Cracker Jacks like weekly for something. So that's interesting how it's kind of evolved. Interesting. So we should open it up now to public. I know there aren't many people here, but if anyone would like to comment, we'd love to have anyone. Peter, you're never quiet. Come on.
Peter Weber, 83 High Street, and with the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce. I'm here with Ken Reel, our CEO. We want to express our strong support for Jay's project and urge you to grant the license that he has applied for the new Whistle Stop Market. I do appreciate you looking into the complexity and the procedural challenges that you face, and I just want to say I think you've come up. Sounds like you're coming up with an elegant way to do that by granting the license, but not issuing it, I guess is the terminology you're using. I simply want to add that however this moves forward, I know there has to be a state review after a state approval, I assume, as with other licenses that you award. So I'd just like to offer our support and our advocacy for expediting the process along in any way that we can.
Great, thank you.
I just don't want to be redundant. It's a great thing to see this happen. It was nice to hear the history of Cracker Jacks.
Yeah.
I remember all of those steps, but I'd kind of forgotten the details. So I had a question, a procedural question. Don mentioned that in the future, assuming this is very successful and they want to expand or move, that somehow the licenses or the law requires the license to be tied to a specific place.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it
Mitch,
that
do you want to
way,
explain that?
that,
Because it's special. It's
Certainly.
because it's special legislation. Yeah, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair. Chapter 308 of the Acts of 2012 that governs this. Section C
yeah.
specifically states, the licensing authority may not approve the transfer of a license to any other location, but it may approve the transfer of the license to an applicant at the same location. And then there's a bit more that goes along with it. But it is restricted, and it is council's belief that it is tied to that physical address. Once it's granted, it's to that physical
Whatever that
address.
address is that it's
That's-
originally granted to?
Correct, until there's special legislation moving it elsewhere.
I would offer the opinion that was an unintended error in drafting, and I agree with what Jay's heard from Bob Visnick. Our legislative delegation would gladly expedite legislation to allow that to move, assuming you're very successful and you need much more space. So, again, thank you for
Thanks, Peter.
bringing this forward, and I urge you to
Thanks, Peter.
support this.
Yeah,
Thanks,
nice to
Peter.
see you guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Toby?
Toby, to the mic, please.
Mike, can you go?
Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. Certainly, we need a grocery store, and it's been a long time coming. Onward with Peter Weber's procedural concerns on possibly shifting it. When we wrote the text that the state later approved, it was approved by a town meeting, and that was a town meeting vote prior to going to the state for their approval. I would think that any change to that would go the same route. Would that not be the case?
I think it would be, right?
It would follow the standard route for special legislation,
Yeah.
which is
Okay.
the selectmen to town meeting and then up.
I find that reassuring because Jay said that, you know, he could talk to the legislators and so forth, all good intentions, and but that doesn't seem to me the way legislation should work. I mean, if it was the town that asked before, it should be the town that asked again, and that would be the case, would it not?
I'd like to stay on I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
It was
this will
Mr.
be a
Campbell
great
who
problem to
Yeah.
have.
Pardon me, it was Mr. Campbell who raised the issue, and Peter Weber took it up, and I'm trying to
Let's
follow it, and,
change it.
you know,
I think the answer is that the town will follow whatever it legally needs to follow,
Right.
and I'm sure that,
And we're
that
way
Jay
ahead of
will do the same
ourselves.
thing.
Yeah.
I think if it has to go to town meeting and then the legislature, that's exactly what it will do.
okay, so that it would be the same procedure as before.
Absolutely.
If that's what's necessary, then yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Z. Sepula, 92 Granite Street. I looked at the Jay's plan with Phase 1 and Phase 2, and I asked Mr. Campbell, who was holding it up, whether or not this comprises the entire store, Cracker Jacks, and I was told it does. So my question is, I don't see any provision for retaining any of the Cracker Jacks sundry supplies at all, although Mr. Smith did say that he's increasing shelf space 15%. So with the household pots and pans and things like that going over to the hardware store, that's one thing. But in actuality then, can we assume that the rest of the inventory is going to be taken out of the Rockport marketplace? And I think, you know, just like to know.
Sure, go ahead.
As I mentioned earlier, it's I wasn't feeling really good and fuzzy about Cracker Jacks and its performance, and so part of this was to resurrect that. We've got jobs over there that I want to keep. We've got a business history that I'd like to continue to have, and the town is really very much looking for a grocery store. And so I cooked this up with the idea of like a country store, to mix some of Cracker Jack's current things and to mix the grocery store in with that, and the beer and wine department too, and have it all be an attractive, interesting store, and convenient too, but not a convenience store.
I know.
And so
It's adorable.
when the hue and cry came up about saving Cracker Jacks, and again, I'm so pleased, but again, it's caught me by a little bit of surprise. So there will be some choices to be made about what we will carry and what we won't carry. And there will be choices to be made about what we will and won't carry. And although we're going to endeavor to do the best we can for our customers to keep the things they want, there'll be some things that do fall off the shelves and we won't continue to carry. But hopefully we'll be able to make most of the changes we need to make with reducing the width of the department, so to speak. You know, again, that no more 8 pairs of scissors, let's try 2 instead. And a lot of the really popular departments in the store are the area that's earmarked for the deli. So who knows what will happen if we get going and get going really well, then we may be looking for a change of location sooner rather than later. I mean, I can't promise, but that's certainly something I'd love to see.
All I just was referring to was the plan.
Great. Okay. I don't know.
Just one,
Thanks.
one other little piece. People have said, why don't you put this in the IGA? And for those that have not seen the IGA, it is, when the former grocer moved out, they had a crew come in and scrap out all the copper, pulled the coolers out, pulled the plumbing pipe. They scrapped every bit that they could scrap. And they left a rusting, dirty, torn apart mess. And we got in there and said, holy smokes, what are we gonna do with this? And made the decision, and we pulled out 100 tons of ceiling and walls and coolers and everything. It's gone. There's nothing in there now. It's a blank canvas, ready for somebody to take. But it's also a significant investment to bring a grocery store back into that space and that size of space.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm foolish, but I hope I'm not crazy foolish. So I'm trying to be a little bit cautious in what I do.
Makes sense.
No, that all makes sense.
Any other public comments? Okay, at this point, should we close the public hearing?
That's you, Nina?
Selectman Sheedy?
Yes, I move the Board of Selectmen close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Donnelly?
Aye.
Selectman Sheedy?
Aye.
Selectman Wilkinson? Aye. Selectman Campbell?
Aye.
Selectman Murphy?
Aye.
Okay, the motion motion carries. So Mitch, is this,
So the motions, Madam Chair, that you have in front of you are the standard approve or deny.
Okay.
If you'd like, I can read
To make that
that
motion.
alternative one
yeah,
that you
did you
wanted.
make an alternative?
Yes, so, Madam Chair, proper motion for the alternative option would be move that the Board of Selectmen approve and grant Whistle Stop Markets LLC application for an annual off-premises license to sell wine and malt beverages at Whistle Stop Market at 27 Whistle Stop Mall, Railroad Avenue, but refrain from issuing subject to 1, the receipt of all required licenses and permits, and 2, the fulfillment of all conditions of Chapter 308 of the Acts of 2012 by, so 6 months would be November. Is there a particular,
What's today's the 8th?
Sure, you can put that in there for now. Sure.
or
the
November
Okay.
8th or sooner as determined by an inspection and attestation of compliance by the Inspector of Buildings. Further, if the licensee is not in compliance with said special act and in receipt of all required licenses and permits by November 8th, 2018, the licensee shall be subject to a revocation hearing by this board.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. So the way, I just want to make sure that I understand that correctly. So
Sure.
the way that works is, they have between now and November 8th to get the full, to basically have the full thing going. So like to complete phase 1. If that doesn't happen for one reason or another, then there's a hearing where it can be, where the license can be revoked.
Correct. It would be a
Okay.
revocation hearing,
Or
and
we
it'd have to
could-
be a show cause to
Right,
not revoke.
or we can issue the license and then they can start selling alcohol.
It's just holding
Yeah,
it right now.
So Madam Chair, as this is written, if everything is in compliance by November 8th, you've granted it, we will issue it once the building
Right.
inspector.
Okay, and granted it's.
It won't need
ins-
another meeting.
inspected- Okay, it's granted and it's inspected by the building inspector.
He would need to
Okay,
attest that
Okay.
everything is in compliance with the special act.
Can you revoke what hasn't been issued, though? Because if
You can revoke what you've granted.
what you've granted.
yes.
Granted.
Yeah, Mitch checked with that
Okay.
by
He did check,
council,
okay.
yes. Yeah,
Yes, so it certainly poses an enforcement item, which is a concern that council raised, but it
right,
is
that
the
someone has
board's
to,
option.
that someone has to
That
go and
someone needs
inspect
to
it before
inspect.
it gets issued.
So-
But, and the building inspector would be the most appropriate person.
He and I discussed it, he looked at the act, and he was comfortable being the person responsible for
Okay.
attesting to the.
And
to that
hopefully
fact.
before then, we'll all be in there shopping for everything but beer and wine, right?
I can just hear my mother calling me to pick her up. To bring her back. I'll
Okay,
drop her
so
off,
further
come back an
comment-
hour later.
Comments on the motion that has been made?
No, I'm comfortable with
Is
Yep.
everyone comfortable with it? I mean, I
it.
think,
I'm good with it.
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it was, it was hard because obviously we want to be supportive, but at the same time, we don't want to tie the license down,
It's a win-win.
like
Yep.
to
Yep.
go on and on. I
Yep.
think it had to have a finite time, and
Yep.
Jay was very amenable to that time
Yep.
period.
It's all good.
Okay. All those in favor, say
Aye.
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 Aye, opposed nay. The motion carries. Great,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Jack.
Exciting. I thought we'd have like a whole room full of people tonight for that.
Yeah, no.
I know, it's funny.
Funny, it's so funny.
They were pretty passionate.
Jay, what year, when did Ellie Smith's open up?
They didn't come tonight.
I know it was downtown, but what year, do you remember?
It started in Dock Square in maybe 1868, it may be 1874, but it started in Dock Square.
Yep.
And moved to 49 Main Street in 1891. That's where, right next to Toad Hall,
Okay, yeah.
where Toad Hall just was. And it was there until 1967, when it moved up to the Whistle Stop Mall,
Oh,
what
okay.
was then called Rockport Shopping Center.
Oh, okay.
My father had this idea to create a shopping center outside downtown, and they almost laughed him out of town.
Yeah.
What's the matter with you?
What-
Crazy, crazy shopping center.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Congratulations, Jay.
Thank you.
Well, we could.
Thanks, Jay.
We could go with them too.
Okay.
Okay, great. Moving on. Okay, the minutes aren't ready yet, so we'll skip those. Selectmen updates and liaison reports. I've actually been to a bunch of stuff, but I didn't write it down for tonight. I was actually just really focused on preparing for the hearing.
I've got a couple,
Go ahead.
unless if you.
No, go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, go right
Okay,
ahead. If I think of
this is
mine,
quick
I'll.
and easy. Just two for me. First of all, we'll go to the real exciting stuff. Selectman Campbell signed the payroll warrant number 45 totaling $558,881.62. Expense warrant number 45 totaling $657,904.55 on May 8th, 2018. That's that. And the other one I have is Millbrook Meadow had their spring meeting, and very well attended. Tom was there. And it's great. What they've done there is absolutely phenomenal. Right now, what they're looking for and soliciting from the public is the lighting, which I know Tom is very well aware of, and the way it should go. Whether, first of all, should there be lighting, and if there is lighting, how should it be laid out? Should it be lighting that goes to the ground, that doesn't intrude on the sky, of course, which would be my vote? Should the bridge be lit up, the dam be lit up? I mean, how should they go about it? So if anybody has any input, they're absolutely invited to supply that to the Millbrook Meadow Committee and let them know what they think. And that's about it.
Great.
Is there going to be a grand opening or anything, Don?
I'm sure they're gonna do something. It's kind of getting phased in a bit, and I asked them about that.
Yeah.
So they're gonna kind of see what happens as it goes, but I would love to see a real, I mean, for all the time and work that they've put into
Yeah.
this,
Like a real
you know,
community
yeah, it
thing
really
down
needs
there,
to be a
something
big
cool.
deal.
Yeah. How's
so.
the hydro seeding taking down there?
I went there this morning,
Yeah.
it's starting to pocket some places and others not quite yet.
Is it? Yeah.
Is it being watered regularly?
It is, I mean, they're balancing it with natural rainwater and rain and watering when they need to, especially the plantings that they need to,
Yeah.
eye on.
That's cool. I'll just comment on one thing that I remember. I participated in the Earth Day cleanup at Old Garden Beach with my kids, and Don, your in-laws were there. They're like a pleasure. They're like such, that group, I will tell you, I think
good
it was like
people.
an extension of the Old Garden Beach Association, but that area like looked completely different at the end of the morning, from like trimming the hedges, and then it was so nice that the DPW went around the next day and picked up all the, trash, debris. We found tons of like lobster gear, rope, like bags and bags of stuff. But the park, it looked like completely different at the end of the morning.
Becca, you broke it.
It was weird.
But anyway, it was very successful. So I will leave it at that for tonight. Anybody else?
No.
Mitch, Town Administrator's report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a fairly detailed one last time, so I'll be brief on this one. Just an FYI to the board. I indicated in my last report that we may end up issuing some type of spending freeze or a be cognizant memo. So I've spoken with accounting and with the treasurer's office, and I will be issuing a what I would consider the yellow light, so to speak, to folks as we get towards the end of the year. It's not a spending freeze at this point, but non-essential items we're going to ask folks to be cognizant about before they make that purchase. We're working towards addressing the snow and ice deficits and the storm damage deficits. We have those well in hand, but just to be prudent as we go into the next month or so, we're going to ask folks to just be very cognizant about what they're spending. If we do have a need to issue a spending freeze, I'll certainly make the board aware prior to issuing that. But just an FYI to you, a memo will go out later this week to all the departments asking them to be cognizant of the end of the year.
I hope we can close out snow and ice for the year. I'd be
You know,
happy with that.
You never know.
I think that is well within
Good
hand.
going.
Snow and ice and storm damage.
Right.
You know, as I said to Joe, the amounts were not as large as I expected for those, which was great. So we're in good shape. We're in good shape.
Okay. Great, thanks, Mitch. Oh, I wanted to just give a quick update. A few weeks ago, I think it was the last meeting I was at, there was one of our firefighters that was in here, and he was very distressed, very angry with some issues that he said has been going on for years. I was thinking maybe he would be here again tonight, but he's not. But I just want the board to know, and the public, that these are issues that Mitch and Linda before Mitch have been working on for several years. For the past well over 2 months, have been trying to get him to sit down and try to, like, once and for all, like, come to a conclusion with some of these, which in our minds have been closed out a long time ago, and his haven't. So I said, let's just sit down once and for all. I begged him to give me dates. I went through his direct supervisor who was working with us to try to coordinate something. I think just last week, he finally sent something that he's willing to sit down, but there's like a whole list of requirements.
There's a list of demands.
Of demands with it, including bringing a tape recorder. And so Mitch and I just haven't, honestly, in all honesty, have not had the time to, like, go through the list of demands. I have gone above and beyond, and I know Mitch has too, trying to resolve these issues that I think honestly were closed out years ago, but I'm happy, like, for his peace of mind to do it again. So we'll probably have an update at the next meeting, but it's still ongoing. But we're trying to just, I said if we could just sit down, the four of us, and meet, I think we can get this wrapped up. But the demands may be a little bit extensive.
The demands
They're
are a bit
extensive,
excessive
yeah.
and borderline inappropriate for someone to put forward.
Yeah.
But we have
So-
to certainly discuss.
So we're working
moving
through
forward.
that, but I just wanted everyone to know that honestly, we all take all these issues really seriously and that it's not being ignored. Okay? Thanks. Okay, should we move on to the action list?
Yes.
Appointment of Candace Waldron as a member of the Rights of Way Committee.
Madam Chair, I move that the board appoint Candace Waldron as a member of the Rights of Way Committee for a term to expire on June 30, 2019.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Appointment of Michelle Rowe as the Police Office Manager.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the selectmen appoint Michelle Rowe as Police Department Office Manager effective June 1st, 2018, as an employee at will.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just have a question.
Sure.
Mitch, have you notified the people who weren't selected? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
That's exciting. The police must be excited that they,
They're going to certainly miss Sherry.
yeah, of course.
And the board will be getting an invite shortly. I spoke with the chief yesterday. They're going to have a brief cake and coffee
Oh, great.
event for
That
folks to
police
stop
department
by.
has more parties.
Oh, the one for the 2 new officers last week was really nice.
That was a very nice event.
I just wish it
Yeah.
was in the middle of the day. I really wanted to
know.
go.
That
I
was
just
tough.
couldn't be there.
I just like
Pick me up
happened to be in
I know,
town.
right?
It's hard. I know.
Yep.
It's hard. Okay. Did we vote on that?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. To accept the resignation of Dylan Cook as Technical Support Specialist.
I move that the board accept the resignation of Dylan Cook as Technical Support Specialist effective immediately.
Okay. Any further?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Addition of August 20th to the Music at the Beach concert series.
I move that the board add August 20th, 2018 to the Music at the Beach concert series sponsored by Wyatt Wilkinson.
That's it.
And Bruce Reed.
Motion is made.
Yeah.
Bruce Reed. Don't forget
Yeah.
Bruce. They're
No, I'm
like
only
a
kidding.
match made in
Yeah.
heaven. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and that's because they have like, literally Bruce has bands coming out of his ears, like Rockport bands.
Great.
Super
Great.
cool, who want to
Great.
do it,
Yeah,
so,
that's a lot of fun, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, motion
Excuse me.
carries. My goodness, I'm tired. Approval of the K-Talk seasonal park and ride contract. Is there a motion?
There is. Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign a contract with the Cape Ann Transportation Operating Company to provide Rockport shuttle services for the 2018 season.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded, and my iPad just froze on the page after, but I believe it's around $18,000, which is what it usually.
Correct, the rate hasn't changed, very fortunately for us, in at least 5 years.
Yeah. It's
So we're very thankful for
crazy.
that, yeah.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approval of the second lease amendment to the Straitsmith Island lease with Mass Autobahn. Is there a motion?
Is that me?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I move that the board approve and ask the chairperson to sign a second amendment to the Mass Audubon lease to include the construction of a landing wharf and a pier for recreational and other non-commercial uses.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Oh, I just remembered my other update. People may have seen on Facebook the residents who saw the dead birds at the tool company
Oh, yeah.
in the doors. I just wanted everyone to know that the building inspector contacted the owner, who very quickly sent someone over.
Oh, good.
They've cleaned it. I just got an email this evening. He emailed me this morning, and then I just got an email tonight from the manager of the building that it's been cleaned up and sealed, and they think the problem has been solved.
Great.
And if anyone finds anything else, they should let us know, but they think
That
it's
was
fixed.
awesome.
Oh, that's
So
good to
that's
know.
good,
Yeah.
that they dealt with it very
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
They were
in the
getting
window, like in the
stuck.
door, they're flying to the
Yeah.
glass part and then not being able to get out.
No.
Okay, next, approval of the GZA contract for Long Beach design and engineering work. This is probably why Joe's here.
I move that the selectmen approve and sign a contract with GZA Geo-Environmental, Inc., 144 Elm Street, Amesbury, Massachusetts, for the engineering and permitting services Long Beach Shore Protection Improvements Project in the amount of $303,450.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? Joe, do you want to comment on this, or?
If there's any questions, I certainly will, but I think you all
think
know
we're
what's
good.
happening at
We know.
Long Beach and the efforts we're trying to
Yep.
move forward with to make some repairs, both short-term and long-term.
Yes.
And the majority of this contract is funded with a dams and seawall grant with the state. 228,000 of the 304,000
That's great.
is in fact funded by that grant.
That's great. And I will tell you, I was invited as part of my the election process. I was invited over to Long Beach the other night to meet with a few residents, one of which was Chip Tarbell, who's on our Long Beach Infrastructure Committee. And he does a great job representing the committee and explaining what's going on. And I know the residents appreciate like how quickly this is happening. And I've told them that we'll continue to work on this stuff quickly. So they appreciate that.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Permission for the Firemen's Memorial Parade on June 10th, 2018.
Yes, I move that the Board of Selectmen grant permission to the Rockport Firemen's Association to hold its annual Firemen's Sunday Memorial Parade on June 10th, 2018.
Oh, I'm gonna miss that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion?
Why is it?
This is the Firemen's Memorial Parade.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the Memorial
Yeah,
Parade.
Okay.
I'm
this
thinking of
isn't,
Memorial Day.
this
Yeah,
isn't
me too.
Memorial Day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm confused, okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Permission for the 4th of July events.
You always get the fun ones.
All right. Madam Chair, I move that the board grant permission to the Rockport Firemen's Association to hold its annual 4th of July activities, including a bake sale on June 30th, 2018, and its parade, food stand, music, and bonfire on July 4th, 2018.
Second.
That is a good one.
That's a good one.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Since we're on this topic, is there any way we can send an email to the restaurants to let us know if they're gonna be staying open?
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty embarrassing over the last couple of
Yeah.
years, you know, after the bonfire, nothing's open, there's a line all the way up 127 for the House of Pizza, so.
Yes,
Um,
let's add that
I'm happy
to.
to- I'm
that-
happy to-
That might be a list, like a good project for Debbie to take on,
Yeah.
to kind of.
Certainly, we actually, we started some of that discussion last time. There are
Okay.
some tradition issues that folks prefer to
Yep.
close, but we've been continuing to encourage that
Okay.
they're open for the big five
Well, and
throughout the
honestly,
year.
if they don't want to open, then we should invite some
Right.
food
I was
trucks.
just
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
Do you know what I
say,
mean?
Yeah,
Because,
let's get
you know,
some.
I don't want to invite food trucks
Yeah.
and then take their
Business
business away.
away.
I think we'll get a couple more this time.
Yeah.
We've had our engagement consultant really working diligently with the businesses to say, really, this is an opportunity, great for the House of Pizza last year.
Yeah.
But, a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have a few more open this year. A couple
Okay.
of different
And I'm
restaurants
happy to
coming
help
in, so
too, on this.
that would be great. We may end up needing, some
Or door to
individual
door.
Making
encouragement.
pizza.
Yeah, just get this place open,
I
you
know.
know?
You gotta make
Or
business.
we'll get
I'll
food
make
trucks
pizza,
in,
yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
get, we just
Maybe
need
we
food.
should just.
We
Like,
just
we
need
couldn't
food
find a
open.
hot
We
dog.
just need food.
I'll cook.
Yeah.
Should've come up to my house. I would've-
Well, we weren't invited, so. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approval of year-end transfers.
Yes, these are major. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and ask the chairperson to sign the following year-end transfers. 10 cents from the temporary loan interest to the maturing debt interest. 26 cents from temporary loan
For
interest
real?
to interest LTD.
Yes.
Okay. 7 cents from temporary loan interest to interest LTD, and 79 cents from the bank fees to interest LTD.
Second.
These are just to meet our basic requirements, but because of the way that we have to budget for them, we can't
Wow.
just do an administrative transfer. We need the
Got
board
it.
to do it in these last 2 months.
Maybe
Do it
all be
properly.
that easy.
It's Mina's going away present.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
One more.
Okay, approval of outdoor display
We
permits.
didn't vote on that. Do you wanna?
Oh, sorry, yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great.
Madam Chair, in this next one, I know that at the last meeting, there was some questions about some previous violations, so if the board
Yeah.
wanted to split this one and discuss the second
I
one.
would like to.
Great.
Yeah.
I would
Would
say
you
just
like to
read the
do-
motion and
if that's
exclude that
okay.
second
Who
one.
has
Yep.
the motion? Do you want to do the
Denise
first one?
does,
Great.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign outdoor display renewals for Good Dog Gallery of 47 Bearskin Neck for the 2018 season.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? I know she has always followed, she's like always followed the rules. She's a, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Would someone like to make a motion for the next one?
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign outdoor display renewals for Asian Inspiration Gallery of 5 Bearskin Neck for the 2018 season.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion?
So this is the business that is repeatedly violated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Correct. There are, I believe, as the packet shows, there's 5 or 6 warnings and then actual fine violations
Yeah.
in the last
Did they
4 or
move?
5 years. They moved one shop over.
I was gonna
Prince and the
say,
Pauper
okay.
closed, they moved one shop over.
So, oh, goodness
So-
gracious. So we don't even have a, did they move to the left?
To the
They
right.
moved to the right.
Because I feel like the only like saving grace they had was that they had that brick patio where
They still
were
they still
before.
have a small garden
Okay.
in front. This is an annual violation, to be quite honest.
I
This
know,
is
it's
an
very,
annual violation.
it's frustrating because there are people who have played by the rules,
Mhm.
like since the inception of the outdoor displays, and it's frustrating to
You
see.
should have them come in.
That they
I know,
don't-
If it's an
maybe we should
annual
have them come
violation,
in.
Why do we?
He has a right to
Come in
apply.
before.
He's a-
Has
and
a right
he's
to
been
apply. He
fined.
didn't
Has
change
paid
his.
the fines?
They've paid their fines. They get fined by the inspector.
Maybe we should
pays
have
the
them come
fines.
in.
Yeah. let's
Board
have
can
them
certainly
come
have
in.
them come in.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
he came in.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
came in once.
Mhm.
But they're owned by a business like out in,
No, it's a.
No, it's a
It's a
local.
Rockport.
Is
yeah,
it?
It's a
Yep, it's a
Rockport.
local
I thought I
person.
remembered researching them.
I mean, it may be but
A
it's a local
branch.
person that operates the store.
Right,
Yeah.
but,
Correct.
yeah,
Maybe we should have him in.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
sure.
kind of suspend any action maybe until,
We can't, we have an open motion,
Oh, I
so we have
see.
to vote. So
Okay.
we would have to vote to deny, but then it could be put on after, correct?
No, we don't.
No, we can just
So is there,
not
so
vote
there's a
on it.
motion, then,
Just leave it.
Just not vote on it.
You can't leave, I thought you couldn't leave an open motion.
we're not supposed to leave an open motion if there's no call for it, it just, I guess it would just languish and be done.
Does that comply with Robert's rules?
Yeah, I mean, are we better off to just vote it
Ro-
down?
Robert's rules would dictate that you
Vote it,
take
should we
action on
vote
the
it
motion.
down and then
And
tell,
that's-
tell them to come in?
Yeah.
So all those in favor say aye.
Oh, what? Tom's got a comment?
Yeah. I think,
Procedure for Robert's Rules of Order would be to table the motion.
There's a motion that to table the motion, you would have had to have done that prior to
Making
making
the
the
motion.
motion.
making them,
Yeah,
well, I think we're probably safe
Sure.
to vote the
Vote
motion
to
down and
deny it,
then,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
to,
But
Yeah, let's
I
bring
feel
it up
more
again.
comfortable with
yeah,
that.
then leaving it
That
open.
sends a
and-
message.
Yeah, because that way, okay, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
No,
Oh.
in,
I got it, you all messed up. I got it.
Oh.
all those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay?
Nay. I thought it was a
Okay.
motion.
So the motion fails, and I think.
So we will,
send him
we
a
will
note
book
that-
Mr. Desmond for the next
Perfect.
meeting.
Yep, great. And, yeah, because my opinion is like, we get him on a tight leash and he has one chance. I mean, you know, enough is enough. Okay, and then, should we do the workshop scheduling tonight, or should we try to come up with like a draft schedule and share it with the board?
That sounds better.
Mitch, does that sound
Yeah.
better for you and I to come up with a
It's-
draft schedule?
You might want to check with the new.
Didn't we need to schedule some
Selectmen.
of these? At the last meeting, we talked about this, and we need to get a couple of them on the books, isn't that what
Oh,
we?
at the last meeting
There
we
are-
discussed that.
There are two that we really do need to
Okay,
put a
which
stake
ones?
in.
Okay.
The Long Beach
Okay.
discussion and
Okay.
plowing private roads.
Okay.
Yes, private roads.
Plowing private roads.
The Long Beach one would be a Saturday.
Oh, let's do that sooner than later.
I can't do a Saturday till like June.
Yeah.
Greg's away till June after.
Alright.
That's why, as long as we need to somewhat pick that
the
because
end
we
of
have some
June.
prep to do for it.
Yeah, we couldn't just do like a Tuesday night, start at like 5 o'clock, go to 10 or something, get dinner?
which one is this? The Long Beach?
It's a pretty significant discussion.
I know, it's
Um,
just that like Saturdays are so hard. That means I have to get a babysitter for the day.
It-
Yeah, no,
It's
no.
up to the board.
Let's do it Tuesday, even,
Well, what if we do 2 consecutive evenings or something?
Yeah, we could do a Tuesday. Would
could
that
do that.
work, Mitch? Is that okay?
Sure, yep. Let's see. When would,
anytime for me, and it's all about me, after June 1st graduation.
Okay.
okay,
Does that get
so,
crazy between now and, or it gets crazy?
so there is, so that would, so 2 consecutive. If we looked at the week of the 11th, and perhaps did 13, 14 that week, Wednesday, Thursday?
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
For just Long Beach.
Just
13th.
Long Beach.
Yeah, would that work for you, Mitch? Is that okay?
That would be, yep, that would work. Yeah, as long as the board's aware that those are gonna be,
That's fine. We
long-
can just get
long
dinner,
nights.
right?
So
Yeah.
Wednesday and Thursday?
so the 13th and 14th,
Okay.
and if we did a 5 o'clock start?
I
That
could
works.
go earlier, but there's other people got work,
I-
so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
that'd be tough to go any earlier.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so Long Beach 13 and 14 at 5. And then plowing private roads, did the board want to add a meeting on the 19th for that one?
Say that again? What was the other one? Oh, plowing private
June
roads.
19th.
Yes.
That's just one night, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
The 19th is fine with
Okay.
me. Is it okay with
What's it?
others?
Yeah, I'm fine.
That's a non-meeting night?
That's a
Okay,
non-meeting
that's
night,
fine.
What time for that one? Is that a 7 or is that
yeah.
a
That
6?
that won't be as long. That
6?
could work for that one.
6.
Okay.
And just another note while we're looking at agenda item, meeting dates. June 5th is a scheduled meeting. I'm planning on taking most of that week off, so I'm wondering if the board could slide the meeting back a week.
No way.
Yeah, because
I know.
I can't make the 5th anyway either.
So it would mean 3 nights in a row, but if the board would consider
We
the
love
12th.
being together.
Oh,
We'd
to
love
do
to-
a meeting the 12th.
The 12th instead of the 5th.
That's fine. That's
It
fine.
actually would work out a little bit better for us with interview transfers. We'd have another week.
I'm fine with that. Are you, Don, is that okay
Yeah,
with you?
whatever has to work.
It's a
I'll make it.
Tuesday, yeah.
So June 12th will be, that's a regular meeting.
Yes,
And then so no meeting the 5th, right?
correct.
And then do we meet the 29th?
You would meet again.
No,
so
May 29th? I'm going
You
backwards.
would meet May 22nd. It'd be the 22nd, then the 12th.
Of May?
Got it, okay,
22nd of May, and then June
Yeah.
12th is the next one.
okay.
Excuse me.
Alrighty.
So is May 22nd the next meeting? No.
Yes.
It is?
Yep.
Okay, got it, okay.
And then, do you happen to remember, Mitch, when the CIPC meeting is?
Yes, the CIPC meeting is
Okay, I'll get these all on my calendar.
June 11th at 2:30.
June 11th. I'm going to see a lot of you guys that week.
Okay. Okay, and then the rest can be scheduled after, is that okay
Yes,
with
we
you for now?
can,
Okay.
those are the two that we really needed to kind
Great.
of put a stake in.
Okay. Perfect, okay.
Good.
Any other business or announcements?
No, I just have,
If we could have a motion, just to.
Oh,
to formally
sure.
vote in compliance with the policy.
Sure, so, did somebody have it written down to do a motion
I-
on these?
I can, so Madam Chair, a proper motion
Sure.
would be the board add a workshop, or add the following workshop meetings: June 13th, June 14th, and June 19th.
second.
So moved.
Glow.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Great. Any other?
Yeah, I just want to thank Mina,
Yeah.
Oh, Paul.
as this is her last meeting, and it's been great serving with you for 6 years. I've enjoyed your legal mind, and it was a real benefit to have a lawyer on the board. So thank you. I think you served the town very, very well. I didn't always agree with you, and I pointed out when I didn't. No, but 6 years on the board of selectmen is a long time. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. It's been an honor to serve the town and to serve with all of you. I'll miss it.
What are you gonna
but-
get on
Miss you.
next?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a little, just a summer maybe off, yeah.
We've already started recruiting.
Yeah.
We have a list of things for her.
Yeah, yes.
That's true, and yeah, we'll get you in the finance committee.
Goodness. Okay, anything else?
Thanks, Mina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mina.
Thank you all.
Oh.
Oh, would you like to move to
Well,
adjourn?
we're gonna have you back to recognize you, on the next meeting.
Oh, yeah,
That's
I'll
up to-
show up on
Yeah.
the public comment
Yeah.
period. So I'll move to adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Oh, did I take my nameplate?
You just need the holder, but the plate is.